360 years old, which is approximately 110 years older than our country.
So what
we're trying to find out, and what we will find out, is are people being paid from all of these, somebody pocketing 10,000 here, 10,000 there, what's going on? So we'll find that out pretty easily because we have a lot of computer geniuses. I said to Elon, who are these people that are doing this, the Doge people? I said, who are they? Where do they come from? He said, well, number one, they love our country. Number two, they're really genius at
兄弟们，多久不见了，兄弟们
Some bureaucrat that's scamming the country, and they try and talk about certain computer language. These people say, no, it doesn't work that way. These are people that have a natural ability as brilliant computer people. It was very interesting when he told me that. I said, that's what you need today. But all of these scams have now been terminated. In addition, over the past month, we have effectively eliminated the U.S. Agency for International Development, which was funding much of this lunacy. We virtually shut down the out-of-control CFPB, escorting radical left bureaucrats out of the building and locking the doors behind them. What they were doing was so terrible. Where they were spending the money was so terrible. What we haven't looked at yet, but will be, is does the money come back to them? Because nobody can be stupid like that. And they're not stupid. They're smart, actually. And, why are they doing that? Does money come back to them? So we'll figure that out pretty easily, I think, and quickly. But I've ended all of the so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion programs across the entire federal government and private sector, and notified every single government DEI officer that their jobs have been deleted. They're all deleted. And it's interesting, even these companies that have tremendous amounts of money, a number of them just announced, Walmart, if you can believe it, they just announced that they're stopping. And, these companies are writing off like $220 million. How can you spend that much money no matter what you're doing? If you're teaching something, you're going to have an instructor. You're going to talk. You're going to give them a book. Please read the book. And then you find they spent $225 million.
按赞、留言、分享，催泪。等下来抽东西，等下来抽奖了，抽奖了。
Although I tell you, we defeated ISIS with our military. And
今天有啊，马都麻了。
He's some general. He's a real general.
你老婆说我终于开直播了，先抽奖。
I asked him, and I.
谁最快？
We're so great, the soldiers. We have the greatest military
Who?
in the world, but we don't have the greatest top leadership. That's why
谁最快？
horrible situation and so embarrassing and so many other.
花生牛奶私讯 IG 送茶叶，送超级茶叶。博君哥私讯我的 IG 送你一个茶叶啊，超强茶叶啊！博君哥跟牛奶私讯一下。卡比拉晚上好。小杰哥晚上抽打抽。
General Dan Kane, we call him Raisin Kane, and I was told it would take about 4 years to defeat ISIS, and he did it in 3 weeks. I said to him, what do you think, General? How long will it take? Sir, I think we should do it in less than 4 weeks. You're going to have time left over, and he did that. And we were told by the television generals it would take 4 years, so we did it. That's when I went to Iraq. I flew to Iraq, and late at night, the dark of night, all the windows closed, all the lights off in the plane, in Air Force One. And we flew in, and it was pretty amazing. I'll tell you, we were landing, and there were no lights in the plane. Sir, we have to turn off all lights. I said, you mean we spend $9 trillion, and we have to fly in an Air Force One with the lights off? And I went up to the pilot and said hello. And by the way, these guys are like central casting. These are the best-looking human beings. Everybody is like perfect. The most handsome people. 抽
起来！到哪都马上进来，先按赞，留言分享，按赞才有抽签资格。按赞才有抽签资格。
And even the lights in where he was were down, very dim, very, very dim, with all of the lights on the fancy dashboards of the plane, of Air Force One. We're getting a new Air Force One if they can ever finish the damn thing. We're getting 2 of them, actually. But we may have to go a different route because it's taken them a long time. We're going to get military that's going to start building. We're going to get people to start building properly again in our country because they don't build properly. This was Boeing. But we're up there, and I'm looking at these people. And again, I say...
鲁马哥私讯一下，鲁马哥私讯一下，私讯一下 IG 啊，私讯 IG。处理一个茶叶给你啊，处理一个 Between 超级茶叶，处理一个茶叶给你。
Yes, sir, we're fine. But I'm looking at, I don't see any lights, and we're landing.
沿路处理。
And I'm used to that. I like to sit with the pilots a lot and respect the pilots greatly. And we're up there, and we have the computer. I call it the computer voice, where it goes 1,900, 800. It's feet. Your feet above ground. So that means you're very low. And I'm looking out, and my eyes are pretty good. And I don't see any lights. And the computer goes out, sounds like an intelligent individual. It goes 1,000. We're 1,000 feet up. It's a 10-story building. There's a big plane. And then it goes 900, 800, 700. I say, Captain, Captain, we don't see any lights. Is everything? Yes, sir. Everything's fine, sir. We'll be landing in 3 minutes. And then it goes like 600, 500.
瞅瞅阿 G SO， 晚上好啊！太久没见各位了。不是啊，这几天都那个啊，去杜拜玩沙啊。而且你在杜拜玩的时候，因为天气很热嘛，那边干热，尿尿变超少的。哦，都在喝水，结果尿很少，一天上不到3次厕所，出去就蒸发掉了。比起台湾这个湿热的天气，不错，一定要，哪一次不带礼物？哪一次不带礼物？那只骆驼要8万 U 啊，8万 U 的骆驼。真想带回去。哇，台湾天气就是，黄林伟晚上好。你那一只是柯基啊？啊，不对，那是柴犬。哦，今天也是一个不错的一天。And they said, I don't think so, sir. I said, well, I felt I was extremely brave. But now here's the problem with saying a story like that when you're kid. The press will say, President Donald Trump wanted to give him. What Donald Trump？ 没有啊，就跟他讲的嘛。关键的价格嘛，这里拉回来，我们看到一个下影线呢、他回来测哪里？回来测这个嘛，回来测这个下影线，关键的下影线。Good-looking guys. I get down the stairs and, what's your name? My name is Kane, sir. What's your first name? They call me Raisin. I say, wait a minute, your name is Raisin Kane? I love you. I've been looking for you for 5 years. You are the great. This is what I want. And there was a general next to him. There was a colonel. There was a drill sergeant, a master sergeant. They were all like people. I could make a movie right now. I'd have the best looking people ever. And they were great. And then I went in and, sir, would you like to rest before the bed? No, I don't want to rest. I don't want to rest. I've been resting on the plane, other than the last few moments, which were quite harrowing. And I said, I don't want to rest. 这一张搞定了嘛，对不对？直接处理完成。
Gone there, would have rested for days. And then they wouldn't have had a meeting. He just go home.
小郑晚上好。
No, I said I don't want to rest.
一定的还是不准，下午就跟大家讲要做空了，稳赚不赔啊！又是一个稳赚不赔的一天。
A lot of very good, talented people. And that's when I asked them. I said, I'm hearing it's going to take a long time. No, that's not right, sir. It's not going to take a long time. We'll have it done in 4 weeks. I said, how can you say 4 weeks when in Washington they said 4 years? They said, 4 weeks, sir. We'll hit them left. We'll hit them right. We'll hit them up the center. We'll hit them underground and overground. We'll knock the hell out of them.
怎么输？稳的，稳赚不赔，胜率永远99%。
Because they wouldn't let us fight. And we're very far away. They want us to fight for this from this airport.
记得按赞、留言、分享、加入群组啊！速！很快就5月了，很快要6月了呢，很快1年要过了，2025过了一半了，过了1/3了，即将开启第2/3。时间过很快呢，各位兄弟们，时间过很快呢。
And he did it actually in 3 weeks. It was over 100% of people that are really hurting the Middle East, hurting the world, and it was done. And I'm telling you, we have the greatest military in the world, but you have to use the right people. But there's nothing like what they were able to do in that case and in other cases wherever I gave them something, it was done.
各位想要什么周边啊？我最近要来做了。之前有送衣服了嘛，然后我现在开始来做周边了。各位有什么想要的周边都可以打上来。然后那个蓝牙喇叭跟那个闹钟啊，我正在做了。那个劳力士劳力士这几个礼拜就会开始送过去了。我打算应该是轻送了，应该亲自直接送给大家。有很多人达标呢，30-40个人达标。Daytona 有8个人达标，8个人达标。其他的是那个水鬼，也有人挑那个绿水鬼跟蓝水鬼，半金蓝水鬼。恭喜大家啊！很多人拿劳力士啊。
But they're not working, or they're certainly not working hard. You could never build a company or a country with that. So we have a very strong policy, and if they don't show up to work, they get fired. And we're trying to make our government smaller but much stronger.
晚上好，味道彩。
Bureaucracy, but it's happening. A lot of people are
劳力士之夜恭喜大家。
leaving with pretty good offers, you know.
劳力士真的。 赞！恭喜大家抽劳力士啊！总共有50个人达标劳力士。有8个人达标 Daytona，8个达标 Daytona。衣服质感不错的，爱马仕材质一模一样。拿爱马仕的衣服给他，叫他找这个布料。 很透气啊，然后又不会太薄。Are leaving because they don't want to be caught having the second job. Some are leaving because they didn't want to be in government any longer, and some are leaving because they didn't want to show up to work. They wanted to work outside of an office, and that's never going to work for anybody, including companies. Companies ought to get smart. You watch these companies where they do that. They start going bad. Nobody knows what's wrong with this company. Well, try getting the people back into the office where they can be cohesive and together. In less than a single month, the Department of Government Efficiency 看一下，我来看一下啊。
saved over 55. This
感觉
is just
今天
a
也
short period
是
of time, $55 billion.
感觉今天也是可以那个一下。
Compared to the numbers that you're talking about, right?
这个影片我还没录完这个影片还没录完，这个还不能动。
It'll mean much lower inflation, lower interest rates, lower payments on mortgages, credit cards, car loans, and much higher stock markets. I think the stock market's going to be great. In other words, we will rapidly grow our economy by dramatically shrinking the federal government, and we have to do it. I'm also taking fast action to end the radical left's nation-wrecking crusade against oil and natural gas. Over the past 4 years, the Biden administration
下到哪？现在在缓跌啊，缓跌有机会直接下来这里下来原点我来看一下。他现在在测这一个嘛？他现在在测这个。这里很危险站不稳回去就下去了，看这里，站不稳回就下去了
38% of active oil and gas rigs in the United States, but they love the wind turbines. They go round and round and round, and if the wind doesn't blow, they got problems. They kill all the birds, they ruin the sight lines, they ruin the plains and the beautiful areas of our country, including the oceans, the lakes. They close more than 50 power plants, all causing energy prices to
关键价格，关键价格，哎呦，关键价格
Pretty easy. These policies were so destructive that despite draining nearly 40%
现在回到中轴了，现在回到中轴。
petroleum reserve meant
这点危险
for emergencies.
有机会就直接下去
It was meant for emergencies. It wasn't meant for getting a price of gasoline down so that you can win an election. It didn't work for winning the election. Actually, there's so many people that
这样好了，直接帮你拉这样。
that it's a very small number, just had a very small effect. But in the meantime, it takes it down. We'll fill it up fast, but it's at the lowest level. When we made the transition, it was at the lowest level in history ever recorded. It's the lowest level. Nobody's ever seen it that way. They put it all out because they thought they could keep gasoline prices down a little bit, just go past the election, and after that they didn't
用
care.
白色比较好。
And it didn't work because they didn't get elected. I got elected. But the price of gasoline still rose over 35%. And in some cases, at some periods, it was 100% and 125%
关键哦，关键
in
哦。
some periods of time. Under the Trump administration, we have implemented a very different plan. You probably heard of it. It's called Drill, Baby, Drill. And we're doing it.
严重喽，严重喽！关键的价格，关键的水平，关键的 K 棒，关键的瀑布。
And we're going to use it, and we're going to use it on AI plants. I was telling some of the people that came in that they're very interested. Everybody's talking about AI. I hope you're right. I don't know. Who knows? But Elon, are they right? Are they right in going all? They are all in for AI. But the problem is, to do it, just in our country, you need twice the electricity just to open up and be the top of AI. You need twice the electricity that we have right now in the entire country. If you take all of the electricity, you need more than twice. You need twice. You need double what we have right now just to fuel this new industry that's growing. I was amazed when I heard that number. And they all said, how can we do this? Because, in China and various other places, you can probably get it with the shake of a hand. But in our country, you can't. But now you can because I'm declaring a national emergency in order to get fast approvals. And we're going to have, if you build a plant, you're able to build an electric generating facility right next to your plant. So you'll be making your own. You won't have to count on utilities. You won't have to count on an old grid that could fail. Could get hit by something, bad things or good things, but you're not going to have to.
换跌的节奏，关键的。
You're not going to have. You'll build your plant and you'll build your.
各位怎么看？各位怎么看？各位觉得是往上呢，还是往下呢？
And put it out and get paid for that. You're going to be able to do that. You could put it back into the grid, but you're going to be able to build with your plant a generating facility, and we're going to get you Lee Zeldin, head of the environmental. The environmental group, various groups, and we've got them unified now, but we're going to get you very fast approvals, and they'll be approved so fast your head will spin, and we're going to get that whole industry started, and we're going to be the head of it. We're leading right now. We have the greatest brain power. We're leading right now, and I expect that we're going to be leading by a lot, but we're going to get you the energy very, very quickly. That would be the one thing that everybody was concerned. How do we have that much electricity when Los Angeles has blackouts and brownouts right now, and there's a lack of electricity, but we're going to get it at levels never seen before. I ended the ridiculous Green New Scam, halting tens of billions of dollars of wasteful deficit spending, and I withdrew the United States from the unfair one-sided Paris Climate Accord, and I ended Joe Biden's insane electric vehicle mandate because it was just insane. I repealed the last, and by the way, if you want to buy an electric car, it's great. If you want to buy a gasoline-driven car or a hybrid, it's great. Whatever the thing happens to be. I heard hydrogen's hot. The problem is when it's not, you're in deep trouble because when that sucker blows up, they don't find the body. So that's one that I said, you know what, let's take a pass on that one. They said it's good, but when it's bad, it's really bad. You find the bodies on trees, on the side of a tree. I said, I think we'll pass on that one.
最近不给瀑布，
But you never know, maybe
觉得会上
good, but it
不给
doesn't
瀑
sound
布
like，
继续
it's off to a
跌
good start. I
跌，感
repealed
觉先往下跌，因为继续涨。今天礼拜一耶，
destructive natural
它现在
gas
冲高
export
冲高吗？
ban, and last week we
冲高
approved
再
the
回落
first
吗？
new liquefied natural gas
今天是
export
礼拜
license, and
五
we have
哦，今天礼拜天呐，我已经礼拜一啊，外昏呢，
export
开盘在下
met
元
with the Japanese Prime Minister Shiba to discuss large increases in American oil and gas
哇，我以为
exports
今天
and
是礼拜
wanted
一
so
啊，
badly. They said we
忘
went
了
to
忘
the
了。
Biden administration. They wouldn't sell it. They wouldn't sell it. Nobody knows why. Biden didn't know why either. They asked him. I don't know. He wanted. They did. Oh, I didn't know that. But we're going to sell it. And the new project in Alaska is going to feed all of Asia. We're going to take care of all of Asia. We have so much oil and gas, like very few people, like very few countries have, like really actually no country has. I also met with Prime Minister Modi of India, who wants to greatly expand India's purchase of
我怎么感觉向下吸啊？
My administration has also
后来
launched the
打
most
月
aggressive
开盘，
deregulation program of any
感
nation
觉
in
向下吸
history.
的概率
Under
很
my
高欸。
executive order, for
向下吸啊。
every one new regulation added,
现
10
在
old
关键的这里，
regulations have to be eliminated.
你觉得
And you know, in our
鲁马
first
神绝对会
term,
上？
which was actually an incredible success, we had the greatest economy in history until COVID, and even after that, we did great. The stock market was higher. If you think of it, it was higher after the fact. After
I
we
could.
went through that whole thing, it was higher than it was just prior to COVID coming in, which is a pretty amazing thing. But we did a great job on that, but it was a terrible thing for the world. The whole world suffered. It suffered terribly, including China, including other countries. It was a terrible period of time. But despite that, we did well. But we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. And I think this time we're going to do even better. We were artificially hurt by COVID. We had to focus on that instead of focusing on, but just prior to COVID coming in, there's never been anything like what we did, what we achieved. And even after, we did very well, and especially considering what all of us had to do with COVID. Some nations were hit so badly, it's just unbelievable what happened to them. As part of our effort, I've signed executive orders to keep the United States at the forefront of artificial intelligence and to end Joe Biden's war on Bitcoin and crypto.
好，我去吃个东西，等一下回来。你的想不要这样啊！我吃个东西，等我回来。今天开比较久啊，今天应该会开到凌晨4、5点啊。今天开凌晨4、5点，感觉是有点机会。吃海底捞，或者吃丸南，吃海底捞或者吃丸南。
But they were being indicted, and many of those indictments were dropped just before the election because they said, wait a minute, there's 100 million, 125 million people using this, and they
先拿掉，再下去测试94，有时候有机会哦。不是啊，先上你说一个底高，底高吗？回来再看哦，我先去吃东西哦。随时抽奖，随时抽奖。哦，你待在聊天室越久，越有可能拿到奖。
I saved your life because if they thought that they actually thought that I was doing it, they said, why is Trump doing it? Is he doing it for political reasons? I don't do anything for political reasons. I do what's right. I want to be in the forefront of every industry. So I'll be working with the Republican Congress to pass the largest tax cuts in American history. And that includes, obviously, we have to extend the Trump tax cuts, which were, until now, the largest. We're going to dramatically cut taxes for families and for workers and for companies, including no tax on tips and hopefully no tax on Social Security and no tax on overtime. And that overtime one is a sleeper because I think a lot of people are going to be spurred on to do a lot of extra work. When they hear that, it's a lot of companies really like it, and a lot of people really like it. The new Trump tax cuts will also include 100% expensing for new factory construction in the United States and anything else that you're going to buy with capital. If you buy something that is going to be good for our country, we're going to let you expense it, 1 year expense. And I did that the first time, and everybody was saying, can you go back to that? Now you still get, I guess, 40% or whatever, but it pares down. But we're going to bring that right up to the top level. I think that had a lot to do with the success that I had during my first term. And we'll substantially cut taxes for all domestic producers of oil and gas and just about everything else that they produce. In my first term, I brought the business tax down from around 40% to 21%, which everybody said was an impossible thing to do. I cut it from 40. It actually was state and city was much higher than 40, but I got it down to 21%, and now I'm bringing it down to a goal of 15%, but only if you make your product in America. In other words, you're going to be at 21%, but if you make your product in America, you're going to go from 21 to 15. If you don't, you're going to pay 21%, which is still lower than anything. So guys like Elon are going to come and make his great cars in the United States. There are a lot of people are calling, a lot of car companies are calling. They called me, three of the majors, they called and they said, we're looking all over the place, we want to be there. I'm going to be announcing tariffs on cars and semiconductors and chips and pharmaceuticals, drugs and pharmaceuticals and lumber probably and some other things over the next month or sooner. And it's going to have a big impact on America. We're bringing our businesses back. If they don't make their product in America, then they have to pay a tariff. But if they do make their product in America, they don't have to pay any tariff, which will it's all going to bring trillions of dollars into our treasury, or it's going to mean that there won't be any taxes because we want to have a fair base. If they don't have it, we don't have it. If they don't pay, if they don't charge us, we don't charge them. It's pretty simple. The Republican Party is once again the party of common sense. We're a party of common sense. We want strong borders. We don't want men playing in women's sports. We don't want to have transgender for everybody. We're the party of common sense. That's how we won the election in such a big manner. We'll no longer allow other countries to ransack and plunder our nation. That's why I've announced that we will soon begin imposing reciprocal tariffs on any country that engages in unfair and unequal trading practices. If they tariff us, as I said, we will tariff them at the exact same rate. So if a certain country, because some of these countries, even countries that I've already mentioned, are extremely aggressive with tariffs. Nobody knows that. European Union, they have a VAT tax that's devastating. It's very tough for people on the outside. Hard to sell cars, really impossible to sell them because they also have non-monetary tariffs that are very, very tough. But if you take a look at that, it's a very unfair situation. And the VAT tax is similar to the tariff. Around the world, I'm moving quickly to end wars, settle conflicts, and restore the planet to peace. I want peace, and I don't want to see everybody being killed. And you take a look at the death in the Middle East and the death that's taking place between Russia and Ukraine. It's been going on, and we're going to end it. There's no profit for anyone in having World War III, and you're not so far away from it. I'll tell you right now, you're not so far away. If we would have had this administration for another year, you would have been in World War III, and now it's not going to happen. In the Middle East, I've restored my policy of maximum pressure on Iran, designed to bring peace. And we've designated the Houthis a terrorist organization. They're, destroying shipping lanes all over the place. They're making it very hard for people to get their product delivered. They're making it very difficult, but we'll take care of that situation. And we've secured a ceasefire in Gaza, and we're bringing in the hostages, and we're bringing them home to their families. Some of them are in pretty bad shape, I have to tell you. To end the horrible war in Ukraine, I've spoken with President Putin and President Zelensky, and our teams began negotiations this week in Saudi Arabia. I want to thank Saudi Arabia for that. That was so great. Yeah. And I want to thank, in particular, we have so many of the people, Yasser, Mohammed, all of the people, but in particular, we have to thank Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for hosting these historic talks. And talks that went very, very well. Steve was there, Steve Witkoff was there, and Michael was there, Michael Waltz and others, and they really went well. It's a big step. We got to get that war over with. You have to see the people that are dying. I look at the pictures, the satellite pictures of the field. It's a level field, and it looks like a modern-day version of Gettysburg, and you know what that means. It is just carnage. It's horrible. And, it's not American soldiers. It's not even soldiers from the Middle East in the case of Ukraine, Russia, but it's people, it's young people from Russia and Ukraine mostly that are just being decimated. It's flat fields. And a bullet goes, and a bullet only stops when it hits somebody. And the level of people being killed in that battle, soldiers, young soldiers, in some cases old soldiers, because they're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers, in one case. But think of it, a modestly successful comedian, President Zelensky, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that basically couldn't be won. that never had to start and never would have started if I was president, not even a chance. And it didn't start for 4 years, never would have started. But a war that he, without the U.S. and Trump, will never be able to settle. They'll never settle that war without our involvement. That's why they did such a great job this weekend. That's why Saudi Arabia did such a great job this weekend in hosting. The United States has spent $200 billion more than Europe, and Europe's money is guaranteed. They get their money back. It's a form of a loan. Nobody knows that. I know that. I said, why isn't somebody saying, we do it the same way? And we spent much more money. We have to equalize. But while the United States gets nothing back, so they get their money back. It's a loan. We just give our money. And we had a deal based on rare earth and things, but they broke that deal. But they broke it 2 days ago. We had a deal because I said, we're spending $350 billion, and Europe gets their money back in the form of a loan, and we don't. We're just giving the money hand over fist. That's the Biden administration for you. But they're no longer dealing with the same United States as they were dealing with a few months ago. Why didn't crooked Joe Biden demand equalization, and that this war is far more important to Europe than it is to us, and that there's a very big, beautiful ocean, a separation? This is, we're helping Europe. We're trying to help Europe. On top of this, Zelensky admits that half of the money that we sent them is missing. They don't know where the money is. He said, well, we don't know where half of it is. That's great, wonderful. He refuses to have elections. It's low in the real Ukrainian polls. I mean, how can you be high with every city is being demolished? It's hard to be high. Somebody said, oh, no, his polls are good. Give me a break. Every city is being demolished. They look like a demolition site, every single one of them. And the only thing he was really good at was playing Joe Biden like a fiddle. He played him like a fiddle. That's an expression we use, Yasser, to say that he's pretty easy, pretty easy. A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. Got to move fast because that war is going in the wrong direction. In the meantime, we're successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something I'll admit that only Trump is going to be able to do in the Trump administration. We're going to be able to do it. I think Putin even admitted that. Biden never tried. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably maybe he wants to keep the gravy train going. I don't know what's the problem, but he hasn't been able. He's very upset that he wasn't invited. He could have come if he wanted to, but that he wasn't invited to Saudi Arabia. But he's been working for 3 years. There's never been even meetings or phone calls to stop this war. It's a horrible thing. I figure Russia's lost 900,000 soldiers. I think that Ukraine's lost probably 700,000. And it's a terrible thing. You'll see bodies and body parts all over the field, all over. We see them very accurately through satellites. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions of people have unnecessarily died. And you can't bring a war to an end if you don't talk to both sides. You got to talk. They haven't been talking for 3 years. So we hope to see a ceasefire soon and to reestablish stability in Europe and the Middle East. Thank you very much. And as I've said before, it's my hope that my greatest legacy will be as a peacemaker and a unifier. That would be a great legacy. So in conclusion, the golden age of America is upon us, and I'm inviting everyone here today and every citizen across our land to take part in the most extraordinary period of peace, prosperity, growth, innovation, wealth creation, and expansion the world has ever seen. We're on our way. I mean, everyone's talking about us. 3 weeks. We're in there for a couple of days more than 3 weeks. And everyone's talking about it. You have to see the crowds of people outside. It's pretty amazing what's happening. We're on the verge of soaring markets, surging incomes, booming production, groundbreaking technologies, thrilling discoveries, and a quantum leap in the quality of life. Absolutely a quantum leap. One day, very soon, our country will have the greatest economy in the history of the world because we once again have a president who puts America first, and we put America first, and your country should put your country first. But in the end, we want America first, and when it's all beautiful, which it's going to be pretty soon, we want to help other countries and you want to help other countries. But, you know, I tell your leaders, and some of the leaders are in this room right now, you got to put your country first. Whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's something else, you got to put your country first. But we're going to have plenty left over to help others also. As long as you invest in America, build in America, and hire in America, that means that I'm fighting for you. I am fighting very hard for you. Together, we're going to make the United States of America bigger, better, bolder, richer, and greater than ever before. It's going to be stronger than ever before. We're going to be a peacemaker and a peacekeeper. We're going to stop people from these stupid, never-ending wars. We're not going to partake in them ourselves, but we'll be stronger and more powerful than anybody by far. And if it ever came to war, there is nobody that will be able to come close to us, but we don't think that's going to ever happen. So I want to thank you all very much. It's a great honor to be here. And I think somebody said they're going to ask questions. And I didn't say, gee, what are the questions like Biden does? I say, just ask. It doesn't matter. You ask a question and I give an answer. So I think, Richard, you're going to come up and you're going to give me some questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Please, a round of applause for the President of the United States of America. Thank you. Mr. President, thank you for accepting to take a few questions. 20 years ago, I don't know if you will remember, we were under the same roof in Orlando and you were delivering an amazing speech in front of 3,000 sales reps, giving them the best advice to be successful. So what is the best piece of advice that you have ever received?
Well, I think it was watching my father. You know, my father was a very hard worker, and he just worked hard. And he was very smart. He had good genetics. His brother was the longest-serving professor in the history of MIT, Dr. John Trump. And my father was every bit as smart. But my father had to work. He was older, and he put his brother through school. In fact, he once said, boy, I put him through so much school. He had 3 different degrees. And they asked him to stay on at MIT. But my father was the same ilk. And I noticed that my father was a happy man. And what he did is he worked. He just worked all the time. He worked. And he loved it. And really, I think the best piece of advice I got from that is you have to love what you do. And if you love what you do, you're going to have a happy life. If you don't, I mean, I see so many people, they're in businesses that they don't want to be in. They're in businesses that, you know, they're bored in or they're not good at. They don't have a natural ability at it. There is such a thing as natural ability, whether it's sports or acting or anything else. I mean, some people have an ability for something. Try and find that ability, but you have to love what you do. If you love what you do, you're going to be, at least you have a good chance at being successful.
Mr. President, it's almost time for an early dinner. So if you are throwing a dinner party and you can invite 3 fascinating guests, living or dead, who would you bring?
Well, they're all sitting right in the front row. Yasser, are you ready? Mohammed, are you ready? Steve Witkoff, and we have the most important person, at least until the World Cup is over, is here. Johnny, stand up. He gave the United States the World Cup. Johnny, thank you very much. I didn't know you were here. That's very good. He's the king of soccer. That's not bad. And you've done a fantastic job. You know, but it's very interesting. When I was president, I got the World Cup. And I got all of the, you know, we have this 250 anniversary, so that fell in this administration. That's a big deal, 250 years. But we have all of these things happening, and I also got the Olympics. And I was called by the mayor of Los Angeles, sir, would you call up the Olympic Committee, because it was at that time President Obama will not take their phone call, and we're going to get the Olympics in Los Angeles. And by the way, they've recommitted to Los Angeles at a level that, you know, I was very worried about that. And the opposite, you know, somebody could have said, well, we're going to do it someplace else, until they have actually recommitted. They're going to make it bigger and better than ever. So I want to let you know that. But I had the Olympics. So I got the Olympics, I got the World Cup, and I said, and the 250, but that one I didn't get. But it was there. It was in this term. And I ran an election, and we did fantastic in 2016. We did much better. Millions and millions, tens of millions, but millions and millions of votes better. And bad things happened, and I didn't get that one. And I said, you know, when I originally signed the Olympics, I said, I won't be able to even be president. And I got the Olympics because if I didn't, when I spoke with the people, the organizing committee and the people in different parts of the world, they asked me to do it because the president wouldn't do it. I was president-elect, and I gave them a talk. I couldn't get them off the phone. They were starving for love. And the bottom line, they gave us the Olympics. And I said, you know, isn't it sad I won't be president? Then we had the election result, and now I'm president for the Olympics and for the World Cup. So I'm very happy about that, Johnny. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll be there. I promise I'll be there.
And by the way, Mr. President, backstage you have a gift from Johnny. He gave us the first ball with your name, which will be played for the World Cup in America.
It's going to be great. Thank you, Johnny, very much.
I doubt that any day you will take a sabbatical year, but if you could take a sabbatical year, Mr. President, what unconventional thing would you do?
What was the word?
Sabbatical. You don't work for 1 year.
I thought you said Sabbath. It's a big difference. It's almost the opposite when you think about it, right? I think what I do is, look, what I'm doing now is the most exciting job in the world. It's a hard job, not an easy job. It's a nasty job. It could be a lot easier with, you know, I think that the news media has to straighten themselves out because people are getting it. You know, they're losing tremendous popularity and they've lost their prestige and they've lost their credibility. And I think it's a very important thing, the news media, but I think they have to straighten themselves out because the people are going around them now. They have so many different things with like Elon with X, which was a big thing, and we have Truth, which has been fantastic, and we have so many other things that you don't really need traditional. But I will tell you that there is just nothing I could do to enjoy my life, whether it's that or anything else that you'd ask, because this is the ultimate. I mean, I had to make a big decision, and it was a very risky decision because if I would have lost, my life would have been a much different life. It would have been a very nasty life. They were going after me at levels that nobody's ever seen before. Not Andrew Jackson, not Abraham Lincoln. You know, the historians say that the president that was treated the worst by far by the media and overall was Andrew Jackson. In fact, his wife died of heartbreak. They were treated really rough. And Abraham Lincoln was second, but he had a civil war. You know, you can understand that. But nobody was treated like me, nobody. And I will tell you, you learn a lot about yourself. But there's nothing I'd rather do. I had to make a decision, do I do this? Because if I lost, it would have been very, very bad. It was dangerous, actually, very dangerous in so many different ways. And I decided to do it, and I said, I have to win, because if I don't, when I spoke to a friend of mine the other night, he said, you know, if you lost, it would have been it was actually Sean Hannity just before we did the interview last night. He said, boy, if you would have lost, you would have had a tough life. You would have had a very tough life. So there was a certain amount of courage involved in this decision to run, and it's a great honor to win by this much, to win all 7 swing states, the popular vote. Popular vote doesn't get won that much by Republicans for whatever reason. I think that's changing because, again, we're the party of common sense, and they're the party of some real bad things, and I think they'll change. I think they have to change. It would be wonderful. I'm going to be having lunch with some of the Democrats next week, and it would be wonderful if we could work together. I think working together would be great. But they have to change. You can't get elected on the programs that they want, and that's really what America wants to see. So there's nothing I'd rather do than what I'm doing right now.
When we started this conference, Mr. President, when we started this conference, Yasser and I, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince told us, I want that to be the place where people will come to understand where to invest in terms of geographies and sector. So what is the best investment you have made in your personal growth, Mr. President?
Well, I was involved in real estate from, most of my life, and was, guys like Witkoff will tell you I was really good at it, and I was successful at it, very successful at it. I've been involved in things prior to being president, but during the last 4 years, I followed sort of the trends, and I've made a lot of money with following some of these trends. And, it's, again, it's something that you do. I really believe that some people have instinct. I think I've always had an instinct for making money. I make money. And I went into show business. I had one of the most successful shows on television. I wrote books, and they were all bestsellers. Virtually every book was a big bestseller. So I don't know. It's whatever I do, I just want to make it successful. It's very important to me. There are many ways to make money. You can be in many different fields. And a lot of them is being in the right country. You know, if you're in a certain country, our country is actually getting very bad, very dangerous play happening. But if you're in a certain country, you have a chance to do well. And no matter how good you are, if you were born into the wrong country, you're not going to make money. Now, you can do other things. You can attain power, I guess. Maybe it's the wrong kind of power, but it's power. But Biden was doing a good job. If I thought they were, I wouldn't have run. Because, as I said, it was very dangerous to run in a lot of ways. In fact, my ear will show that when you look at it closely. My ear, I have that throbbing feeling every once in a while. But it was dangerous in a lot of different ways. But he was so bad that I had no choice but to do it. If I thought he would, I wouldn't have run, and I would be very happy. I actually wanted him to do a good job. I was saying, do this, do that. I'm telling them, do things. They should, frankly, to have seen somebody do a good job. But our country was going to hell, and I really sort of had to run.
If you were a historical ruler, would you prefer to rule during war or peace?
Well, I want to be, again, a peacemaker, and I want to keep us out of war. But sometimes to do that, you have to have a very strong country. You have to have a very strong military. And as I said, we have a much stronger military than anyone would know. We have the best equipment. And I bought a lot of it. I rebuilt our military in the first 4 years. I rebuilt it. We gave a lot of it away to Afghanistan. So much has been given away. So much has been treated so badly. But to keep peace, you really have to. I have a thing: strength through, and I mean it. You really have it. You have strength, and you need the strength. But it's really peace through strength, because without the strength, it's going to be very hard to have peace. Be taken over, bad things are going to happen. So you really want to have peace through strength, and that's where I've done it. Having strength, having power in that sense to protect yourself and your people is a very important thing. Hopefully you don't have to use that power. I will tell you, I was dealing with President Putin very successfully on denuclearization. I was having with presentations about what we're building, what we're having, the power of weapons, the power of many things besides weapons. What I saw, not only